everyone, and welcome to another episode of Just Weebs. I am your co-host, ShaKing, joined by the original co-host, OniMaru. How are you doing?
It's so weird not being the one to introduce the show. It's not, I can't get used to it.
Everything is outside your control. It's tough.
Yeah, I gotta let go.
Yeah. Well, speaking of letting go, I haven't mentioned the topic of the show. I wonder if we should leave him hanging, take a wild shot in the dark at what you think we're talking about today.
I think we kind of gave it away with, our backgrounds, but if I were to just judge on the background all the way in the back, I'd say it's something about exotic fruits or something.
Exotic fruit? Maybe some homegrown fruit, but maybe some Japanese fruit in the case of Fruits Basket. Okay, so I had to say it eventually, but there was no lead in. Okay,
I'm just so excited that our background is literally a basket of fruit. So.
Okay, guys, we were looking for a background for a good 10 minutes, and I'm like, fuck it, let's do a literal basket of fruit.
We went through 3 different images of fruit basket, and we couldn't pick. We were like, it's got to be this one.
The problem is we keep blocking it with our faces, but the people need to know it's fruit basket. It's fruit basket season. Okay.
Exactly.
So, this is kind of relevant if you guys can't tell. I hope you can't tell, actually. So I got COVID a couple weeks ago, and I'm still a bit coughy and gross, whatever. So excuse my coughs.
She's having a cough drop as we speak for you guys,
I'm just trying to add more and more barriers to me speaking. First, it's the retainers. Now it's a cough drop. So we're living life on hard.
Yeah, we'll try to edit out the coughs as best as we can, but no promises.
If it's every time I laugh, there's a cough. So
it depends. If you prefer an authentic experience, we'll have a cough version and then a no coughs version, depending on the authenticity.
Yeah. Just vote on authenticity later. But yeah, so I had COVID. I was just kind of sitting around, and I was like, it's kind of miserable, but I could watch things. But I was in a weird spot where I didn't really want to watch something completely new, but I also didn't want to rewatch something. I wanted just kind of to sit there, cough a lot, and watch some anime. And a couple years back when Fruits Basket 2019, the first season was airing, I had followed it up until episode 18. And then in typical me fashion, I fell behind on airings and never caught up again. But in the past couple of years, all of Fruits Basket has finished airing. It's gone on to rave reviews. Everyone loves it. So I've been meaning to get back to it. And I was like, okay, I had already seen 18 episodes. I needed a refresh anyway. This is the perfect opportunity to go back and finally finish the series because stuck at home, I can't do anything, but I can watch some comfy Fruits Basket and see what's going on. So,
I mean, not gonna lie, the moment Shaw told me, hey, I'm coming back on Fruits Basket, I'm gonna catch up. I was actually genuinely excited. I feel like, one of those kids that is finally up in line, it's his turn. It's like Shaw's like, all right, your show that you wanted me to watch, it's your turn, buddy. I'm gonna watch it. Yes.
It's like Oprah with the car. You get a fruits basket, and you get a fruits basket. And you get a fruits basket.
Although I'm gonna also be honest, I was a little negative. I was already preparing for the worst. She's gonna hate it. She's not gonna like it. It's gonna be a low score. I was already glass half empty.
You know what I do now, because I've had so many times where I've been down on a show and then I watch it and I go the complete 180, almost despite my past self who is down on it. Now I try to be as negative as possible before going into a show because I know from karma experience that it will make me love a show more. So I came in expecting the worst, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I really liked it more than I expected, and I had a great time. So
yeah, and I think that's a good point too, because you can't go by the hype, because sometimes you'll never know. So it's good to keep the expectations low.
And we're going to kind of get into that a bit later about the hype surrounding the series and how I feel like sometimes the way the series has been discussed recently, I felt kind of at odds with from someone who didn't catch up to the series, because I'm kind of I felt like it was kind of a weird case of everyone's praising this. Is this the case where it's kind of the first shoujo romance they've experienced, where I've experienced a bunch, and I was wondering would I still appreciate this having some experience with the genre? But we'll get into that later. I'm a bit interested in OniMaru's opinions naturally because I value his opinion, but also because he has. Yeah, see, the people want the OniMaru content. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So OniMaru, you have more experience with the franchise historically from like the manga and the 2001 anime, I believe.
Yeah. So, real quick though, I'm glad that Shaw caught up. I'm glad she enjoyed it. I did give her shit for her score, so we'll revisit that later in the episode.
You'll see if I want everyone right now to think of what an appropriate score will be, and we will circle back to see what is the appropriate score that you can live with.
It was good, just not good enough. Not for the.
I want to hear what everyone's like. Okay, this is my score, but I can accept this other score. But we'll get back to that.
Yeah. But back to your question. So Fruits Basket, I actually Fruits Basket I watched back in, what was it? I think it was 2002 or like one or whatever.
Is it 2001 or 2002? I'm looking it up right now. 2001. I did it.
Okay, so it makes sense that it was 2002 for me because back then to localize something took like a year or something. Yeah. So Fruits Basket was my third anime, and I remember buying the DVD. So I had like just started buying anime DVDs at my local Best Buy. And so I got Christmas money and I was like going on an anime buying spree. And so the first one I bought was like a box set of Ranma 1/2, which I got like hooked on. So that's like my second anime was like a rom-com. And then the third one I picked up was Fruits Basket. And then I just bought like, I don't know, like all the volumes came out every month or something. And I ended up buying like, it was a total like 4 DVDs and like I owned them for like a long time. So I watched them and then I liked it. But I never got full closure on the story because it didn't really finish the anime. So I'm the original manga, which I don't think it was finished at the time either. So yeah, which explains why the anime couldn't finish the story. Yeah. And it wasn't until much later that I started picking up the manga as it was being localized in the States. And I was like reading some of the volumes, and then eventually like I think I finished it and I got the full story. So
nice.
Yeah.
And then so I double checked. I think the manga finished in 2006. So kind of makes sense that it would make sense that it wouldn't have finished then. So so like as the more experienced, anime enjoyer, how do you feel like Fruits Basket was like perceived in the community, like historically?
So I can't really speak for the online community because it's very different. Like, knowing what like the consensus is for all these, for everyone online and sort of all these people that kind of just like kind of picked at it and sort of analyzed it. I just kind of knew like locally, like whoever was into it, and everybody that I knew about Fruits Basket like loved it, like really, really like felt attached to it. It was like their favorite, like we said earlier, their favorite shoujo. I had a really good reception, so I already knew that like it was gonna do really well if it ever got a full adaptation.
Yeah, it's like I don't know anything about the 2001 anime. Is it kind of the case of like Full Metal Alchemist 03 where it's like ending kind of whatever, but like we know the manga ending is good, so if they ever get a like full adaptation, that'll be it?
Well, I don't know like about I don't know the reception for but for the anime though. Like I guess people liked it because the people that watched the anime went to read the manga, so I kind of got their full, because they kind of got the full story, so they loved it because they got all of it. I didn't really get like their isolated thoughts on the adaptation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
and that makes sense. So,
but it was kind of like a natural lead in, like, oh, you want more of the story? Go read the manga. Then they collect the manga and they go read it, and
yeah. Well, that's cool to hear. I mean, so I think it's just a series I've always remember hearing about, but not one that I felt like was particularly more like iconic than other series. Like I always just knew about Fruits Basket. I knew people liked Fruits Basket, but I never got the impression it was like a big favorite. That also might just be my limited exposure. And that's also not against Fruits Basket. It's just like the way I remember hearing the series, I
feel like back then it wasn't like iconic because again, it was still like not, widespread. But now that so many years have passed and people think back on it, I'm like, oh, Fruits Basket. And like now it becomes
they have fond memories of it.
Yeah. So I think it makes sense because it never did get that full adaptation. That's like, oh, the whole manga completed and, everybody had their thoughts on it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the premise is actually like really interesting. So as misleading as the title is, it's not actually about fruit. It's about the Chinese zodiac and the folktale where Chinese zodiac members, the spirits of each animal are reborn into this family, and then some members of this family are possessed by this spirit, and if they're hugged by a member of the opposite sex, they turn into that animal. And it's kind of quirky, but it's also kind of, they view it as a curse because it causes them all these hardships in their lives. So what Fruits Basket actually refers to, which I was very interested to actually learn while watching this, was Toru, the main character's own experience where she was playing a game as a kid and she was picked on as a kid. So they were playing a game where like everyone gets assigned a fruit, and as soon as they call a fruit, the kids go up and like play tag or something. And she wasn't given a fruit, she was given a rice ball. And she was never called on it. So it's kind of talking about like people being excluded from society. At least that's the way I took it, as like the way in which people are excluded and isolated in society, and how like detrimental that can be to their state of mind. And I think how a lot of people who are excluded from society can form really strong connections and camaraderie, which I think is something you see throughout the series with the various different relationships and the different ways people have been excluded, like Toru, her friends, the Somas, just different people. And I think that's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's like a larger metaphor. Would it be metaphor or something for like the whole series and all the relationships? Because everybody, the Somas, all of them struggle with that, finding that belonging, that sense of belonging. So it really boils down to that. And that's why Toru is able to kind of fall right in with them and get along with them so well. And they kind of take to her really well. So because they've all kind of experienced that sort of rejection on both a personal level and that like fitting into society kind of level, societal level. Sha is disappearing into the background.
I'm trying to like not get fuzzy and it's not working. I'm trying to become the Fruit Basket.
You should just become Yuki in the background.
I think can't let Yuki fade into darkness. Okay, close enough. Sorry guys, no Yuki for today.
It's okay.
But yeah, it was really interesting to see, because at first it does. I think the impression you get is like, oh, this will be like kind of like a lighthearted, like romance drama, and then as it progresses, like you start getting to see more and more of the heavy side of it, and by the end of it, it's like a complete exploration of cycle of abuse. That sentence got wild. Cycle of abuse. The ways in which traditionalism has kind of failed in different situations, the ways in which family can be really toxic, the ways in which you can find like new family, new relationships, and I think ultimately about self-acceptance, self-love, and and
definitely forgiveness.
Forgiveness. That's the word I was thinking of. Forgiveness is a big one. So
that's a big one.
Yeah, there's a lot of heavy topics that get covered, and they're covered in a really interesting, really compelling way. So I think the emotional connection people have, I think it's really obvious to see where it comes from. So
yeah, like it definitely starts off very, very wholesome, and so you wouldn't expect any of that. But again, as it progresses, you start seeing like the dirty laundry of the family and sort of like all of the stuff, the skeletons in the closet and everything that's sort of been underneath the surface that's affected all of them and caused all these ripples that, everyone's trauma there kind of links back to the same thing. And overall, it links to their whole curse and kind of, generational, that's kind of like been passed down, and they're kind of have to deal with that burden, which keeps them like from being able to blend in, and have those meaningful relationships.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see, because I think these themes are something you see a lot in series, but there's oftentimes not like a literal barrier that keeps them from it. A lot of times it's a lot more metaphorical. Like I think a good example is at the beginning, Yuki, shout out to the goat Yuki. Don't want him to disappear from my green screen. Yuki doesn't get close to people at school, because even though he has, you know, a literal fan club of girls following him around, because he can't really get close to people. One, because he's afraid of actually transforming into an animal and then having to have like everyone's memories wiped, because, you know, they can't let the secret get out. But then also because part of him doesn't feel like he deserves to have friends, because he does feel burdened by being possessed by his spirit. So it's like so many different ways in which he feels that he can't really assimilate into normal society. And then by meeting Toru, who accepts him unconditionally, it's like the first step towards building genuine friendships and connections and starting to feel that he has a sense of self-worth where he deserves to be a part of society.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting how, like, again, you have all the big family, and so because it focuses on each one of them, they all had similar backgrounds. They're all dealing with the curse, but like slightly different backgrounds, because obviously different parents, different situations. But it gives it an opportunity to see how they all sort of responded to that burden, like, you know, like having to deal with that, and how they kind of went at it and what issues it caused in them. So for Yuki, where it would be self-worth, you know, like that's what he struggled with. Every other kind of character has their own kind of character arc and something they're trying to overcome within themselves. But that still ties back to the whole thing linking them all together, which is this Soma curse.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see because, you know, it's just interesting to see as it goes on. Like, there's such an interesting cast of characters, so many different members of the family who have different circumstances, the different animals, and the way they all relate to each other.
And there's not none of the parents are good. Like, there's like very few good parents in the show.
Yeah, parents bad. Can get into that a bit later, but it is interesting to see that it's just, I was thinking about this. Actually, we can get into it now. I think if you want to. Yeah, one of my minor complaints, this is where I can see both sides of it, is one of my minor complaints is how, like, you know, almost, you know, one note bad the parents are, where there's like, you know, they're just like so overtly bad. Like, they say shit like, you know, you're responsible for this death, or like, I wish I never had you. Like, very extreme, ridiculous sentences that feel almost comical, where you're like, okay, so like they're just supposed to be bad. Like, we're not really supposed to see them as characters. We're supposed to see them more as like barriers for these characters to overcome. But the other point of view that I can understand is this series started in 1998. And I think in some instances, abuse can be kind of justified as like harsh, conservative parenting. And I think sometimes it's tough to make it really clear cut that like these people are being abused. It's not just like strict parenting. It's like, this is abuse. And sometimes I think they do need to go above and beyond to illustrate that this is abuse. So I can kind of see both sides with just how like over the top the portrayals of abuse are, because they kind of have to show like, hey, this is abuse. But also I can see it's kind of like, it gets a bit cheesy sometimes when it's just like, I regret your existence. You're responsible for this. Like, you're terrible. Like, yeah.
And it's like, and it's consistent with how like they're all, not all, but like the majority is just like that. And they just go right to the extreme of like, you've made my life miserable. You know, you're the cause for all of the misfortune in my life. Every single thing. Like, I stepped in the puddle today. It was you.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Like, it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that's a good way of, definitely a good way of looking at it too, because it's like, you know, do you feel like that's sort of like emotionally manipulative in a way, like that, you know, that they, I mean, the other point is that they over explain it to draw that clear distinction. But even if like, on the other hand, it's like, it gets you to feel really, really bad for these characters.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that's a little bit like, okay, it's a little too on the nose?
I think I've seen complaints, and I could also kind of share where it's like a bit too overt, and how like you can't, I think the problem is we don't actually see how having the Soma kids have made the lives of the parents difficult, especially someone like Yuki's family, where like his family got tons of money, they're living comfortably, they're doing great. So you don't really get to see how it's like really burdened them firsthand. We're just kind of hearing it from the parents' perspective. But then I think it's kind of tough because you don't really get to see the parents' point of view on how it is raising these kids. So there's no kind of sense of like, this is a morally gray character. It's all just like, no, they're just bad. They're just assholes.
Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, like Yuki's parents specifically, they're just assholes.
Yeah.
Especially his mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we do not stand.
Like they definitely don't, like, I think they're like a really good example of parents. They don't do much to try to explain why, they're like that.
And they don't really try and explain any of the parents. And I think it's just it's tough because we know that they can be transformed into animals. But besides that, we don't really see how else it's a burden. And maybe that's something that's explored in the manga a bit more. And it just wasn't as covered as much. But I think it's just like really small stuff. Like it's not that big of a deal. I still got everything. Just kind of like a small gripe of like all of the parents are just like over the top assholes.
Yeah, we can come back to this, but yeah. But
so that's a good background for it, but it works out well for when we see Toro kind of use her mom's life lessons, her mom being one of like maybe 2 good parents in the show, shout out. And it's always like her mom with the good life lessons that like help everyone out. And then it leaves Toro with such a sense of positivity and emotional strength to keep carrying forward and like help so many people.
Yeah, her mom is literally what her memories of her mom is literally what helps keep Toru together for most of it. So
I made a funny joke, if in my opinion, not to gas myself up, but I was in season 2 and I was like, season 3 is just gonna be it's gonna be like Unlimited Blade Works, but instead of Shiro versus Gilgamesh, it's Toro versus Akito, and it's like, here I come, King of Zodiac.
Oh, I saw that one.
And then that
was funny.
And someone replied with a funnier response with I'm sure that Toro's mom has went through something that Gilgamesh can relate to. And it just cracked me up because that's just like every situation. It's like, well, my mom said this, and then it's like, damn, there it is. That's the answer to life. It's like Toro's mom has the answer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. She knows all.
She knows everything. But yeah, so I think it was really cool to see as the series progressed. I was having a good time. I think it's a very easy watch. Like, not every series is an easy watch where you could just keep binging it throughout the day, but that's what happened to me. I rewatched season 1, had a great time, started season 2, and I found myself like I needed to see what happened. So
it's because it has that, it's Shoujo DNA built into it, that Shoujo trappings, which make you want to kind of keep seeing what happens next.
But yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, does this do any of the annoying Shoujo things that I get annoyed about with Shoujo? And I think it does miss some of the annoying ones in a good way, but it does also have the good parts of Shoujo that make it really emotionally compelling and just fun to watch.
Yeah. No, and it's definitely like it's a comfy watch when it's not being, overtly toxic.
Yeah. I think the big moment for me when I was like, okay, now we're really getting into it, this is like shit is getting real, it's like the midpoint of season 2. They're on that vacation with the family, and Akito is on some bullshit as usual, and she wants to come meet Toru, and she kind of explains, like, first she confronts Momiji, and up until this point I was like cool with Momiji, but am I saying his name right?
I don't know. I just usually say Momiji. But
Momiji? Okay, Momiji.
I could be wrong. I
don't know. Whatever, close enough.
Just go with the Japanese pronunciation. You can't fail.
Yeah, Momiji. So he is like essentially standing guard for Toru. And since we know that like the Zodiac animals can't really disobey Akito, that this is like a monumental thing. Like he is standing up for her and he just gets punched. And it's like a big punch. Like he's such a small character. It's like, you're like, damn, this is like some real shit. And then Akito reveals to Toru that they're not another member of the Zodiac. They're essentially the god of the Zodiac. So everyone essentially just has to listen to them. They're kind of bound by what Akito says and does. And everything that Akito does, I think, is just like 10 times more impactful than it would be from like a normal person. I'm not sure if that's accurate power description, but like they're essentially just trapped to do whatever Akito wants. And it's like, on one hand, it's, supernatural powers, but you can see that like in real life, people have those kinds of inflictions from their family members. Like,
yeah, they have that kind of hold on people, and you can't
Exactly.
really do anything about it. And it sucks because like Akito's this like fragile looking little thing, and yet he can pretty much like say 2 words and like crush everybody.
Yeah, like Akito will literally be like, "You should die," and they'll be like, "That's it, life is over."
He's like literally the unlimited blade works of emotional abuse, you know?
Yeah,
just
unlimited emotional abuse works.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I am challenging that Akito is sickly because they describe them as sickly the whole time, but they be beating the shit out of everyone every other episode and leaving damage. Like, damn, like they be on some shit.
By the way, I guess should I say that, you know, Akito's true gender, or
yeah, I guess you can consider this now spoilers. If this is spoilers, if you were not already spoiled, like we're now, I guess we're bridging spoilers territory. Okay.
I'm not trying to, but I just keep like saying he out of caution for anyone that like doesn't know, because it isn't really, it's alluded to, although you picked up on it early when you were watching it. But you know, it's alluded to that Akito is actually like a she, you know, Akito's female, and they don't reveal it to like season 3.
End of season 2.
Yeah, end of season 2. Okay. Yeah. Which explains a lot of the trauma. So. Yeah,
I think one of the things I heard is that they kind of cut out a bit more of that exploration in season 3 of Akito. I'm not sure, but I felt like they kind of I heard someone say that like they cut out a bit more of like the context of Shigure and Akito, a little bit more of their background, but it does explain a lot that like Akito is suffering from a lot of the same generational trauma, generational abuse that everyone else is, but they're also perpetuating it to a detrimental degree, and then the hold they have over everyone makes their abuse, you know, more OP than average abuse.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. It's all like the whole cycle, you know. They're kind of she has been abused by, you know, her mother, and now that's all they know, and then they kind of continue that on to all of the Zodiac members, because you know, it's like their self-worth is like down below ground. They don't have any good self-worth, and then they kind of use their god status to try to make themselves feel special, or kind of hold on to that feeling of being special.
Yeah, they're also like so perpetually alone that you can see them being afraid of like losing everyone. They feel like they're entitled to everyone in the Zodiac, so losing them feels like, okay, they truly will be alone and have nothing going for them.
Akito's interesting because Akito is essentially a really good foil to Toru, because Akito is essentially all the extreme of all take, and Toru's like too giving, like all give, you know. And that's kind of like the contrast between them, which is why there's been like criticism, like discourse over the years of Toru being a little too perfect, or being like bordering on being a Mary Sue, or too self-sacrificial. It's like she's not a real person. But you know, I think that it makes sense for what they wanted Toru to be for the series. So
do you think that Toru is a bit too? Do you think they show the downside of Toru being too giving enough?
I mean, I had this, I thought about this a few times before, and like, I can see like why that, you know, the criticism exists, and why you think like they don't show it enough, because it doesn't happen till like really late in the manga, and I guess like, really late in the anime, where they kind of delve a little deeper into like her psychology and why she's like that. And even then, it's still a little bit subtle. Like they don't kind of like really dive in, but I think it was enough for me at least to like get it, and to just, and it made sense. It's like, okay, you know, she's literally hanging on to the memory of her mother and using that as like a crutch to kind of not have to, you know, just by she's trying to keep her mother alive instead of trying to live her own life.
It was an interesting conflict to show at the end, that like when she kind of realized that she was in love with Kyo, it was like she was like burdened by the memory of her mother, as if she was like abandoning her mother by truly feeling for someone else, which was really interesting. Because Kyo had his own feeling of burden from her mom. But it's interesting because like her mom was a source of positivity throughout the series, but then it's also like that burden of grief.
Yeah, and it's like interesting how they do that. Like they flip that, coin on its head, and it's like, oh, she could also be detrimental instead of being just this positive influence by having that hold, on Toru. Not that she meant to, but and that was the point where I asked myself, can I see a real person being like that? I'm like, yeah, I can see this. I can see this being an actual thing. So for me, that's like, yeah, Toru's a real person. It's just she's just a little too giving, and then they kind of explained it. So I was good with that.
Yeah,
but I can see though, like even after knowing that, someone's still not finding her to be their favorite or as interesting, and that's fine. But yeah.
I am in the same boat. I do think I like Toru. I don't think she's like a favorite protagonist of mine, but I can also see both sides of the praise and criticism equally. So
yeah,
I feel you 100% on that. But yeah, it's an interesting balance. It's a very interesting cast. Naturally, I gotta give it praise and and laugh at this. The way it's set up, you think it's gonna be a love triangle between Toru, Yuki, and Ko. It's like set up.
It's set up from the get-go. It was like legit. Since back then, since I first watched it, it was always like Yuki or Kyo, Yuki or Kyo. For years.
What's it gonna be? Yeah. And some of you might know, I don't like love triangles unless it's like the most toxic thing in existence. Like, unless it's the point is that like none of these people should be together, I don't like love triangles. I don't like the casual love triangle where it's like we all generally kind of like each other, which doesn't apply to Yuki and Kyo, but like, we're all generally getting along, and then like one couple works out and the other person is like, I'm sad, but I'm happy for you guys. I hate that shit. I think that's like...
Why?
What?
Why do you hate it?
Because I think anime romances have this tendency of having failed romance character kind of martyrizing themselves and then kind of like forcing them to accept that the other people are going to be happy and then them still staying in their lives. So when in reality...
God, the worst example of that, I was just reading that about that exactly last night was, I don't want to spoil, but I'm just going to say... Origairu or My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu.
Exactly. And it's not just Origairu. Origairu is a great example.
It was just the one that was most recent in my head.
The first one you think of. Like, I think it had Toradora, Pet Girl, Sakura So. Like, I've seen so many romances where they have a love triangle and it's like the one character is like, know what? I'm going to let go of my feelings because I'm friends with both of these people and I want them to be happy. So they martyr themselves, and then a large part of the audience connects with them because they've been dumped or they've been rejected, and they're just like me. I'm going to tell you, I saw a real love triangle in person. This shit got nasty. No one is friends afterwards. That's not how it rolls in real life. If you got two people competing for the same person, genuinely, they have feelings for them. It doesn't end well. It doesn't, like, no one is friends maybe after a bit, but no one is like nicely bowing out. It doesn't happen. I'm just gonna say. So I think it's unrealistic, and I think in a very jaded way they do it for like manipulative reasons.
Question. So does it count as a love triangle if back in the day me and a friend liked the same girl, but I don't know if she liked us back, but at least that's not a love triangle, right?
I don't know.
Because it would have to be like one, the girl either has to be friends with you or, she likes one of you.
So it's a common situation, right? I'm thinking of so naturally this happens in bands. Everything bad in high school that has to deal with like dumb drama goes back to bands. So it was like people who were generally friends with each other. It was like one guy and these two girls who generally got along. And then
they develop feelings.
And they both developed feelings. They all knew that they had feelings for each other. And it was a point of conversation. And I don't even know how much of it was like his fault for like leading people on or it not working. But it was like a back and forth for the year. Okay. It was the year. It's not just kind of like, hey, I like this person. No, I like this person. And then like people kind of figured out. This was like a very public, obvious thing that multiple people had going on. And I think that kind of applies to a lot of these romance anime where it's like at least obvious to us, like we know. But I mean, I don't think the part of people having feelings for each other and working it out amicably is the unrealistic part. It's the like self-sacrificing way in which they present it.
Okay.
Where I'm like, so, you know.
Now, toxic love triangles that you like, go. What's the
best
first
example,
one?
Well, the
for
best
reference.
one, for reference, Berserk.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Great.
So that one is great because they all have conflicting feelings for each other, and there's so much toxicity in it. Like,
and it's not even just about the romance. Like, it becomes more than that. There's a purpose narratively for it. Yeah.
My favorite slice of life grounded version that doesn't involve demons and monsters and whatever is Rakugo. Great example.
Still got to get to it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't use that for your example, but for other people who have seen it, Rakugo, great toxic love triangle. More great toxic love triangles, Nana. Everything is toxic.
That's what
Nothing
makes it
is good. Nothing is good.
Okay, bringing it back to Fruits Basket.
So I was dreading the love triangle, but the way they went was really interesting, especially in the second half of season 2. You see Yuki start to kind of branch out from their friend group, and he joins the student council. He starts going out and meeting more people and making more relationships. And it's done in like this very like casual, subtle way of just him kind of branching out and getting to know more people. And I think they handle it in a really cool, interesting way. Mm-hmm. But it leads to him realizing that he doesn't actually view Toru as a romantic interest. He kind of views her as a mother figure who he like appreciates because she was nurturing, she was loving, in a way his mom wasn't. So we now have mom zoned.
What did you think of that development? How did you feel about it?
I heard about it before, and I was like, I can go either way on this. I could go either way, but I do think they put in the legwork with Yuki's character to make it plausible.
Okay, so
what did you think about it?
No, I'm cool with it. So I have a friend, she liked Fruits Basket, I guess for as long as I did. She was part of like that OG, like people that like Fruits Basket, I guess, or at least, mid 2000s, whatever. She read the manga, all of that. And I was talking to her about it like recently, or maybe like 2 years ago. I was getting her thoughts on it, and she was just like, because her favorite was Yuki.
Yeah.
So, and she was like, they did my boy dirty. Hated it. Like, it killed it for her. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, oh, the fact that he thought of her, like they built him up to like, be a love interest. And then it's like, oh no, I think of, you as my mom. And she was like, that's bullshit. And then they threw in Machi, and then she was just like, nah.
I will say they 100% were, the initial interactions were definitely like romantic in nature. And they definitely like recontextualized it in their way. So I could definitely see someone being salty at that, especially if you don't have the personal grudge against love triangles that I do. So I think part of it is I'm like, you know what? Let Yuki be happy with Machi. I like Machi. She's nice. They're a good couple. Yeah. Half of me is like, you know what? Let him be. The other half is, okay, I don't want the love triangle development. I like that the source of conflict for everyone comes outside of that. And I think that's why I'm okay with it. But I do think it's a difficult pill to swallow at first. That it's like, so you're going to mom zone her? Like we're mom zoning? Like I didn't realize that would be a thing. But the ends justify the means. That's what I'm going to say.
In her eyes, I think also she didn't feel that like the Machi thing was developed enough. Like it felt like they just stuck him with someone just to be with her. Now, I went to go verify that myself just because I had already reread the manga. I went to just double check and just look at like, okay, maybe was it like that? And I don't think so. I actually think it was pretty well written. Like, the justification, like the reasoning for why he sees her as a mom, even if they retroactively like changed it, but it still made sense. Yeah. It still tracked. And then his development with Machi and their similarities, that all made sense, and it worked really well, and it kind of like carried forward his character arc about growth and being able to open up to other people and all of that. So it worked really well. And then even the scene towards the end where he's just grateful to Toru was like really beautiful, heartwarming.
I agree. I think it's interesting that that's the note that they end the series on is expressing gratitude towards her for the unconditional love she showed them, which helped them all become stronger. Like, that message is stronger than Ko and Toru end up together. You know, like, they're both strong messages, but like, what's the final note we're ending on? It's like, you loving us like helped us gain the strength to love ourselves. And I think that's really cool to end on. I think that's cool.
Yeah. And I think like for people that do think like Toru is like unrealistic or whatever, I could see the argument being made, and maybe it has been made, like, you know, no one can realistically love people and do that like that unconditionally. But I think for the purpose of the story and the narrative, Toru kind of had to be that way. They did try to make sense of it. And also by the end, you know, Toru does kind of double down on that she is selfish, like that there is a part of her that is doing it for her. And like, especially when she finally lets herself, you know, kind of give in to her own desires rather than like her mom's lessons or whatever.
Yeah, it's an interesting point when she's at the confrontation of Akito that, you know, at first when Akito rolls up with a knife, obviously like over the top, as Shigure calls it the stabbing spree, which had me rolling, which is like, he casually calls it, you know, maybe she got it out of her system after the stabbing spree.
That motherfucker became so toxic, but he's still so funny.
I love Shigure. I hope he's in your favorites. We're going to go over that. But so I love Shigure still. Toxic goat. But so Akito, the big confrontation is she like rolls up with a knife, of course, and she's like calling Toru all these names, whatever. And Toru is like, yeah, I'm dirty. And I was like, oh, I don't like where this is going to go. But she acknowledges that she is essentially trying to steal the Somas away, even if it's for their own freedom and her own reason. Or like, she essentially wants to break the curse so she and Ko can be together, which, you know, you take an everyday person, you're like, yeah, that's kind of realistic. That's understandable. We would all do the same. But for her, it's like, no, this is definitely a selfish desire of like me taking this other person away for you. And, you know, it is fair. Naturally, I don't think it's like a bad thing. Like, obviously, she wants to break the curse for good reasons. But it is kind of cool to see that she's like, no, I'm doing this because this is what I want.
Yeah. Tell her.
Yeah. And then she gets like awkwardly stabbed and falls off a cliff. The cliff thing was a bit dramatic, but like whatever.
I mean, at that point, you already stuck around for the ride. What's another cliff, you know?
What's another cliff? Yeah.
I mean, like, I remember reading that in the manga, and it felt like it ended like 3 times already by that point. And it's like, oh no, and now there's a fucking cliff. No, what's gonna happen?
Cliff, no.
It's like it felt like everything was resolved, and Akito was like, no. It's like, and then they just go show the cliff scene, and I'm like, this is still going. Okay. But it was good. But yeah, no, I definitely think, you know, there's some things that were over the top, but it still made sense. And I don't know what else I was going to say, but you can take it from here. I
think they ultimately did a good job. I do like the way Toru and Ko's relationship it is definitely like a slow burn that you can see gradually becoming a really good romance over time. Like, they start off with like very awkward interactions because Ko is just like kind of a mess. He's just kind of like ridiculous mess. And then you can kind of see the slow progression, and it does have the benefit of being how many episodes is it? It's like
63
episodes. The benefit of that over time, where, you know, you get to see the gradual progression and how he opens up to her, he opens up to other people, and I think that was really nice to see.
Yeah, no, I think it made sense for his arc, and you know, if anyone kind of like needed sort of to have someone like Toru in his life, it was probably more so Kyo than Yuki, you know, because I don't know, Yuki kind of had to find that on his own.
I think it's an interesting case of like, Toru might be more important for Kyo, but I think that friendship that Yuki built outside is more important, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think like that's definitely a better way of articulating it. Like, pretty much because like you could tell like kind of like almost the last confrontation between Yuki and Kyo, which was like at the house.
Which was good.
And, like,
I was happy for that. Call his dumbass out. Like, tell him what's up. Yeah.
It's like they finally spoke, and it was great. And you could tell like Yuki in his mind now like started to evolve to a higher tier, and Kyo was still not getting it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, listen, man.
You're a dumbass. Get the
Yes. You need Toru. You go get her.
Yeah.
Yuki's like, I already figured it out. I'm good. So,
yeah, I
perfect
think
illustration of the difference. So
yeah, Yuki and Kyo definitely have one of the more interesting relationships throughout the series of like, you know, they have these generational roles and burdens that have been thrust on them, and seeing how that has played out in different ways of like Kyo as the cat feels like the Yuki, the rat, is always taking what's his, is always kind of like coveting his stuff. So he always has that kind of resentment. Meanwhile, Yuki just wants like acceptance and is trying to find that. But then it also is a recognition that like, you know, Yuki kind of, I think, just lets Kyo have that hatred because he knows that he needs that to carry on and like keep himself going, which is interesting. It's a lot of like internal conflicts, a lot of like, you know, a lot of resentment that is kind of there as a placeholder for confronting real feelings, which is interesting.
And it was just so like sad and frustrating that like you see the flashbacks and like how both of them wanted to connect with each other and like reach out to each other, but they just couldn't. And like they would just either miscommunicate or do something. It's like you two are like more similar than you know, and you can't even like, it's just, you just keep missing each other.
And it's interesting that they show as like time goes on, they don't necessarily become best friends or anything, or even friends. They just kind of they let go of their hatred, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And they learn to forgive themselves.
Yeah. So that reminds me of shout out to some of our supporting MVPs. You are rocking him there. Hatsuharu. What a goat. What an MVP. You can see the early signs of recognizing that the roles that are placed on you aren't something you have to accept, because he hated Yuki by default because everyone thought he was dumb because of the myth. And then Yuki's like, well, you're not dumb, so like you don't have to live by it. And then you see Haru beginning to kind of like accept who he is and like appreciate himself, and then, you know, give that love to others when they desperately need it, like pulling the strings behind the scenes to help everyone. Love it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they were more of the him and Rin, and like some of the others were sort of like trying to break away more actively. Even in him in smaller ways, Rin more aggressively.
Rin got like, I was trying to power scale it in my mind as usual, because like power scaling trauma, why wouldn't you do that? I don't know who got the shittiest hand dealt, but like it's definitely Kyo and Rin are up there. Rin got like really screwed over by everything. I feel for her.
Rin and I mean, I guess like, I mean, Momichi's backstory is sad, but I guess that's a backstory versus just getting fucked over constantly. So
it's so like his is really sad. And like Hattori, that sucks. I think
should we just start the power scaling round of backstories?
Power scaling. Let's go through the Zodiacs and who we like, who had it the roughest, and like who are our favorites. I think that's
tier list. All right, let's go.
I was thinking of breaking out a tier list actually.
Yeah. I'm down. So yeah, let's get into it, because it seems like, you know, you kind of really enjoyed the show. You enjoyed the message. Like, unless you have any like maybe gripes you want to bring up to kind of tie it up.
I kind of brought that up with the like depiction of abuse, how I could see both ways on it. Yeah, I mean, small gripe that I think as an actual production, I think it's a weird case where the character designs are really good. I like the character designs and how they've modernized them from the original art style. But I think the actual like color palette, directing, and like animation was a bit like basic. But I mean,
yeah, and in my case, like I can't be too hard on it because I was just happy it was getting an adaptation and it looked clean. So I'm like, check the box, up facelift from the manga, you know, and this is from something that's been like 20 years, never thought it was going to get a full adaptation. I actually was doing the math when they released like the episode count, the final count, like, okay, 63 episodes, there's 138 chapters of the manga. If I do the math, they'll adapt 4 per episode. Will that be the full adaptation? I'm like,
yeah, that's awesome.
I'm like, please, they need to adapt all of it. So I'm glad they did. So
I am too. I think it looks like decent enough. I think most people will be totally fine with how it looks. Potential snobs like me might have some gripes. And then if you're someone who's like super into like unique anime art styles and presentation, you're not going to like it as much. But like, I think it's fine.
I think I'm slowly getting there because like I was like trying to look up a Fruits Basket background before this, and I was trying to look up the Soma house, and then like I was getting pictures of it. I'm like, why does this look so boring? Is that 3D? They made the house 3D? How did I not realize that? Why?
I think it's one of those things that like when you're watching it, it doesn't stand out too much, but when you're like you're taking a few steps back, you're like Googling images, you're looking at screenshots, then you're kind of like, yeah, this might not be the most interesting, but I had a fun time along the way. So
yeah,
I'm
that's what matters.
I'm willing to overlook some of my grapes because I had a good time.
It's about forgiveness, Sha. So
I forgive. It's like, yeah, I forgive the background, and not that it's even bad. Whatever. On
to the characters. On to the power scaling.
Okay, so Yuki is my favorite. Obviously, always liked him. Great backstory, great personality. We stan a king. He is my son. I'm glad he's happy.
Do you wanna like go in order as to what your favorites, or should we just list all of them and then like?
I was just gonna go by memory.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it.
I wasn't sure. I don't know if we should go in order of the zodiac that they highlight so often, or just when.
Oh, I wasn't gonna go that far. I just meant like to just have like the names of all of them and who's who and what's what.
I wasn't sure. Okay. Yeah. So Yuki Goat.
There's Yuki. There's Kyo. There's Hatsuharu.
I didn't vibe with Kyo at first. I wasn't a fan. I knew that he had like a lot going on and his backstory was sad, but it really wasn't until the end where we hear like the burden he carried with Toru's mom, like that whole memory. That's when I'm like, okay, everything clicks with Kyo. I really like him. I think he's really good.
Yeah.
Yuki better, but I like Kyo.
Yeah, I mean, like I always kind of liked Kyo, but he can be a lot more frustrating at times and not like as emotionally aware. But again, when they fleshed out his story, like you said, that's part of kind of getting him to finally forgive himself for the whole thing with his mom was just kind of great. So
yeah, I think it's just tough. I think he and Toru have a great big moment in season 1 where she sees his true form, and that at some point, like I think he like hurts her, and then like she kind of like shrugs it off, and later he feels guilty about it, but they don't ever address it. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, but like, you know what? It's fine. Whatever. Moving on.
Yeah.
So Shigure, my toxic goat. How do you feel about him being the low-key toxic mastermind?
So I don't know. Shigure was actually always one of my favorites. I always found him funny, interesting, but
funny.
In the original anime, there was no toxic Shigure. It just ended. You only got the pure boy, well, not pure, but the funny guy, the comic relief that he kind of cared for Toru and everybody, the dad. But like later when he like, bares his fangs and you see like the true Shigure, like, I don't know, it was tough because it was like, it's mostly his relationship with Akito. It's just so twisted. Like the way, like, it's just, I don't know, man. I don't particularly stand it. It's kind of like a little much. But like, I guess like where I was kind of concerned was where like, I felt like he didn't actually really care about Toru because like, he was just using her as a means to an end. But I think at the end of the day, he still does. It's just he also has that nature. So it's like a bit of both. So I still think he's a very interesting character. I just think like, he's a son of a bitch.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it was because I was on my full hate Akito train, but I was like, yeah, we need a toxic influence to like get back at them. I'm like, yeah, fuck it, go off. But I also just find him so entertaining. It is an interesting dynamic to have more at the end to reveal that he's just like a bit, he does have that toxic side to him. But I like some toxic people. I like seeing some toxicity. I think it gives it. For this most part, this series is very wholesome. There are a lot of wholesome dynamics. I'm glad to have a bit of spice and have maybe a bit of I
definitely think he's one of the more interesting characters, and I think like his whole thing with Akito is like really interesting, as toxic as it is. So I don't know. I don't have a rank order right now, so I'm figuring it out as we go. So keep going.
Yeah, it's a tough call though, because especially I could only imagine where I watched the original. I'm like, oh, he's one of my favorites, and then they're like, by the way, he's actually super toxic and sus. And you're like, no, why'd you do that? But I kind of knew that was coming, but I respect it. I stand a toxic goat. Also, favorite voice actor voices him, so more love, whatever. went over it a bit. Momiji, I think, is like a hidden MVP of the show. Like, I understand finding them annoying at first. I was kind of in that boat, but I think his backstory with his family, essentially kind of like moving on without him because his mom freaked out. First off, let me criticize his mom. She was freaked out because her son turned into a bunny. First off, that's like one of the top
cutest things ever.
It's like one of the cutest things that the Zodiac could have turned into.
And they treated it like he turned into a fucking rat. Like,
yeah, like, oh, he turned into a horse and I couldn't hold it. Like, no, it's a fucking bunny. It's so cute. Like, fuck his mom. Fuck the mom's emotional breakdown.
She acted like he turned into like a chupacabra. Like, it was just like the scariest thing.
It's a bunny. I'm saying, I'm not knock on wood. I know this isn't real, but like, if my son turned into a bunny when I had to hold him, I'd be like, you know what, this is kind of weird, but like, bunnies are kind of cute. I think this is fine. So I'm not saying, if it was me, it would have been different, whatever. But probably. I think he's but he's like
probably
probably
not until you're a parent having to stick with Zodiac children.
Yeah, that would, knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood that, I mean, it can't happen. I'm just saying, if I was there, shit would have been different, whatever. So I think he's also just like a low-key MVP emotionally, because one of the other cool scenes was after the stabbing spree and Akito realized that they suck and that they had hurt people and they spent their whole life hurting people. They have this really interesting conversation with Momiji, who was one of the people whose curse broke naturally, like the connection just broke, and he told her that like she needs to treasure people and appreciate their relationships. And it's weird that it's interesting that it came from him. Like, that conversation could have happened with a lot of different cast members, but I think it's really fitting that it came from him because he's shown to be one of the most emotionally mature. So he's one of my favorites. Like, I think he's top 3 for me.
It's also interesting that it came from him because he is one of the ones that's experienced completely losing a relationship with his mom, and like he can't get that back. Well, eventually, but yeah. So I stand. I think he's great. Definitely underappreciated. Hatsuharu, kind of similar boat. Love him. MVP GOAT. Him and Rin are a cute couple. Love them a lot. Rin got screwed over possibly more than anyone. She got pushed out of a building. Holy shit. Yeah.
It was fucked up. Also got locked in isolation. That sucked too.
That's because Akito hates women.
Misogyny.
Other women.
Yeah, Rin got screwed over to like a ridiculous degree. And it's interesting because by the end of the series, get the feeling that most people have moved on, and Rin is kind of like, no, I'm not cool with this. I don't know how you guys can just so easily move on. But then the series reminds you that, like, no, it's okay. You do not have to forgive people who have mistreated you and abused you. And I think that's an important lesson.
Yeah, it's up to you, and you don't have to. And Rin, if you think about it, was the one that was one of the most independent out of all of them. So, that's definitely something Akito fears.
Is that the implication as to why they were always feeling so sick, because they were constantly going against the curse, or is that different?
Oh, I don't know. I just thought I think they explained it as she just had a fragile constitution.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Also, her parents suck.
Yes.
So, and as is fitting with the series. Hattori, another good tragic backstory. I like him a lot. He's just a nice guy. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, his backstory was sad.
That made me so sad. And he's like almost blind in one eye. Akito sucks. I don't care. I get it, but like, they suck. I don't care.
Yeah, that was another glimpse at like Akito, like an early on glimpse of Akito's really fucked up.
Akito has a lot of crimes to answer to, beyond pushing someone out of a building and then almost blinding someone. Jesus. But yeah, we stand Hattori. I love him a lot. He's great. Ayame was Yuki's brother, was pretty funny. It was just a funny dynamic. I like when he showed up to Yuki's parent-teacher conference and essentially told their mom off. That was a cool moment.
He's actually one of my favorites.
Is he? That's awesome.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. He's really, really funny.
Yeah. So, yeah, you might like him more than me. I like him, but I respect it. I think he's cool.
I think he's up there because whenever he shows up, I just love how much he bothers Yuki and like his whole dynamic and how he's just over the top.
So
And I like his little dynamic with, I don't know, Ayame, Hattori, and Shigure, where they have their whole, I don't know what they call themselves, the trio.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it because yeah, I love it because like it's like the two last brain cells and then Hattori just like cleaning up after them.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going down the list. Let's see who else we got.
There's Kisa, and then the other kid, I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, what's his name?
I don't know.
Hero.
That should say how we feel about him.
Yeah, he just
He's there.
There was like a series of like 3 episodes with introductions in season 1 where I got a bit exhausted. You know, Kisa's cute. They introduced the monkey character.
Ritsu.
They were annoying. Hero's also annoying, but I got it. Like I got the point of Hero. I think one of the best decisions was to not have Ritsu be a character. I think that was a good call.
It worked out.
That was a great decision.
Yeah, they kind of like forgot about Ritsu towards the end, so they never came back.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to, not all characters.
Some people were not okay with that. I think some
weren't.
of the fandom, you know, felt like they didn't get enough screen time or closure for their arc, so.
That makes sense. I don't know. Their character was just kind of annoying to me. So
you know, I wouldn't die on a hill for them, so.
Yeah, you know, it happens. It happens. I forget who else we're talking about. Kagura. I think it's really funny that
I forgot about her. Okay.
Yeah, I know another one that I think. So I like Kagura if only just because their voice actress is the same as Gintama's Kagura, and their characters are similar. So I don't even know if I actually like their Fruits Basket character. I'm just think it's funny that they're like essentially the shoujo version of like Gintama Kagura. But Gintama Kagura is like a lot better. Like, you know, just like, yeah, I don't know. They're fine. Glad that Kyo has someone else who loves him. Whatever. I don't know who else is.
So far, I have a count of 11.
How many are there?
Aren't there supposed to be 12? Maybe I.
Oh, there's Kureno. Kureno?
I forgot about him. Okay.
So
this is already like making my ranking easier. I know where these are going.
His sub art, his character is interesting, but like,
I mean, I only like him in relation to Uotani, the friend. That's it.
And even then, it's a weird age gap. I guess we should talk about that. You know, unfortunately, the bread and butter
that's
of
the whole show
series is age gaps. There's just weird age gaps. Someone brought up how they didn't like Shigure. Why can't I say his name right now, even though we just said it?
Shigure?
Shigure. They're like, Shigure was grooming Akito. And I'm like, look, we have so many like clear-cut grooming happening. I can't even go into edge like
I actually looked that up. It's that one's not the case, I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah, that one, I think he was only like 4 years older or something like that.
Yeah, or something
it's something like, yeah.
Yeah, that one's not that much. They're like, oh, he's grooming. I'm like, look, we got some weird supernatural shit going on.
Like, it's not as sus as some other stuff that's pretty clear cut in the show.
We got to stick to the baseline sus. We can't do edge case sus. We can't. Yeah. And sure, their relationship is sus as it is. We don't need to conflate it.
It's twisted, man. It's twisted. I don't get it.
But yeah, it's funny. I think probably the weakest part for me is the Uchan and Kureno relationship, because like they met twice, and then later she's like, I just don't like how he's making it seem like I'm not a part of his life. And I'm like, I get that you have strong feelings, but like realistically, you're not a part of his life. Like you guys met twice.
She said that? That was the line?
Yeah, like it was like later. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that was after what? The second time they met?
Yeah.
Okay, I get why you feel the way you do.
Well, it's just like, so it's the combination of like, okay, it's kind of weird that their age, whatever. I can cope. I've coped through worse. But
listen, this was normal back then in terms of shoujo, you know, in the demographic. So
this is the show. And I'm gonna say one thing though. You know, we see a lot of series where it's like girl into older guy and they're not even hot. At least in this case, in shoujos, you can always count that if a girl likes a guy who's older, they're probably hot. It's still weird, but whatever.
Yeah, they got to have some allure to them. If not, it's not a shoujo.
Some allure. Yeah, exactly. That's how you know. I was just more caught off guard with her and him that like they met twice and she's throwing like a hissy fit because like he doesn't want to see her. And like obviously they want to see each other, but I'm like, you guys have met twice for probably combined 20 minutes. Like
they felt this chemistry, you know, inexplicable.
Yeah. Too strong.
And also, didn't she already have like a feeling about him that he wasn't living his life like the way he wanted to? So maybe it was that too.
Which is a very weird assessment for someone you've met for 20 minutes. But I get it. It's anime. It's not real.
Don't question the powers of chemistry.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's like magic.
So it's just so funny because they're doing the play. The play was hysterical, by the way. And then they're doing the play and she's like just freaking out on stage, like actually about this. And then they show him her performance of the play, which is funny. But yeah, so he's fine. He's interesting. More of a plot point for me.
All right, I know where he's going on the ranking.
Let's go. That'll be interesting. Okay. So I can't think of any.
I think we got all of them. I think we
got all of them.
I don't know if I'm including Akito on this list, so I'll make my life easy and I will not. Do we want to include any other supporting characters like her other friend, Hana?
Hana, love her. She's
great.
Queen.
And her brother, her little brother's funny.
They're great. I love them. Goth, King, and Queen. They're great. Uchan is great. I like them. I generally like most of the characters. I think I pretty much like this cast a lot.
Yeah, that's what makes it hard for me to rank them because I kind of just saw them all like an ensemble, so I like them all together, but never really thought of it like, okay, let me actually rank them.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So I guess I'm just wondering you could just do top 5. You don't have to get crazy.
I'm not gonna get crazy.
No, you're gonna get crazy.
I'm gonna rank them all as we speak.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so I think Shigure is top 5.
Let's go.
They still like Shigure. It's just hard, man. It's hard knowing that I like someone so toxic.
Accept his toxicity.
He's so fun.
The moment where he told Akito's mom that he slept with her because that's how he imagined female Akito is like a top 10 comeback moment. Like that's awesome. That's like a Jersey Shore moment. Love it.
That was so bad. All right. I don't know. All right. So I think Yuki top 1.
Let's go.
Because I resonated with him a lot more on this I don't want to say rewatch, but I guess re-experience of the story since I was rewatching Final or finishing Final.
Yes.
It's a toss-up here between I think Kyo number 2 or Shigure number 2. So they're at 2 or 3. You know what? Maybe toxicity will bring Shigure down 1. Felt for Kyo a little more. So 2. Then 4th for me would be Ayame. Find them fun.
Oh, that's high. That's cool.
5 would be I think it would be Momiji? Yeah, Momiji.
Let's go. Momiji squad.
Then it would be I think Hattori, then Hatsuharu, then Rin, then Kagura, then Kisa, then Kureno, then Hiro, then Ritsu.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that list. Good
Bottom
list.
was easier. Top was like, I don't know.
Where would you put like Toru in?
Oh, okay. Like as like all of the characters. Let's see. I think I would put Toru under Shigure.
Okay, so.
Cause like I like Toru.
Yeah.
I think I like her, but she's not as interesting as the other 3 above her.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I think I agree.
And also, like, I kind of, like, because of the way the show is, I kind of see them also as units. Like, oh, I like, these two together.
Yeah,
Toru and Kyo.
Almost like dynamics.
Yuki and Machi and, all that stuff. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
What about you?
I think I had similar rankings. I'm looking it up. I think my top 5. I'm torn. So Yuki definitely top 1. I think I'm gonna be weird with Momiji number 2. Like,
Whoa.
Okay. I feel like he had the.
You went from like annoying to like the goat line. That's it.
The glow up is real, or it's.
He also did have a glow up. He
literally he had a literal and metaphorical glow up.
And then he was gunning for Toru.
But that was like a thing where like he wasn't really gunning for her. He was just like, make a move, pussy.
No. He was literally gunning for her.
Is that like a thing? Because I always took it as him just being like, well, do it. Like.
No. He like wanted Toru.
I know he wanted her, but I feel like he didn't actually like go for her. Because people were like, I don't like how he went for her, but I never took it as like him actually doing that.
I think you're right. I think you're half right. Like or whatever. Sure. Like he was.
I'm not sure.
He literally wanted Toru, but he was also not gonna like seriously pursue her.
He bowed out.
You know, he respected. You know, not too self-sacrificial, but you know.
I took it as him being like, look, I love Toru and I would go for her, but she obviously cares about you more, and you need to step on the pussy and go for it.
Yeah, and also Toru, I think, still sees him like as the little like Momiji, kind of like as that. So, you know, he'd have to put in more work to really shatter that image and whatever. So at that point, he's like, things can stay the way they are, and he'll still be happy. But if not, yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of down. I was down with it. Yeah, I'm down with Momiji. I think I'm so torn on 3 because I do like Kyo, but I'm not sure if I like Shigure more, and I'm not sure where Haru stands. Like
toxic goat. Toxic goat. I
don't know where it went.
I think Haru's your number 3 from the sounds of, you know.
I do love Haru.
Where you're saying before.
No, I like Shigure. I defended his toxic ass.
Toxic goat. Toxic goat. Okay.
But I also wish I think something that holds Shigure back a bit for me is I don't think in the final season we got enough exploration between him and Akito's dynamic, because
I feel that too, yeah.
And I think I heard someone say that like they cut out some of it from the manga, which I could definitely see, because the way it stands with this is it kind of like his thing is like, I always loved Akito as a person beyond the like Zodiac connection. So the reason I want to break the bond is so like I will have them as like a person. Like I can have her as like a female significant other and not just like, you know, God and Zodiac animal. And the problem is, like, we don't really get any good characteristics of Akito as an individual. Like, there's nothing about her to love as an individual. And if they showed a bit more of his perspective, like why he loves her, I could kind of understand him more.
I don't know if you've heard anything on this, but from what I recall of the manga, I still don't remember anything positive being shown about Akito. So I don't know where they're referring to that was cut, you know, and I'm sure there was, but it might have been more of Shigure's feelings as opposed to showing Akito in this, like, you know, positive light.
Okay.
Because most of their interactions, like, was when, like, she was really young. So it was, like, not a fully developed person yet to really, you know, kind of determine, you know. But I think they just had like some connection. So
yeah, I'm not sure. I will maybe I'll do the research. I will. Yeah. Maybe I'll read the manga. I'll
tell you the equivalent chapters. Just ask me.
Okay, the true manga expert. But yeah, I forget. Okay, where did I post my top 5? Okay, I did get it. Okay, here's what I put. Okay, here's what I put like 9 days ago: Yuki, Kyo, Momiji, Haru, Shigure. I'll just stick with that.
Whoa. I had Shigure higher. Maybe I'm the toxic person.
You're the toxic.
Damn.
Is it me? Am I the drama? I
think I am. I have him at 3. Jeez.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I might put Shigure higher. I don't know. I like them all. Good group.
It's tough. As long as you know your top 1, it's all that matters.
All that counts. Yuki Goat.
Right there. Right. There. Got it.
Yeah. But
okay.
I think that's essentially all I can think of with Fruits Basket. But I wanted to kind of like bring it to another conversation, which I feel like is kind of inevitable with the big acclaim of the most recent Fruits Basket adaptation is, as you know, as many people might know, because that might be a reason they started it. It's currently Fruits Basket is top 10 on my anime list. I think it is number, where'd it go?
I might have gone down by like 1.
Yeah, it went down a bit, but like it's a nebulous decrease. Like it was top 5 at some point, but it is without a doubt the highest ranking romance series, highest rated shoujo. And it's gotten like near universal acclaim. You know, it's been, you know, I've seen it amongst many favorite lists. I think it's fair to say that like lots of people really love it.
I've only met very, very few people in my life that have not liked Fruits Basket. So,
Yeah.
you know, that says a lot about it. One of them being my fiance. That's it. So live with one of them.
Yeah. And I can definitely see, as we've said, like why people wouldn't like it. I'm sympathetic to the haters, but it has gotten near universal acclaim. And naturally, when something gets a lot of acclaim, sometimes the discourse can just get annoying. I mean, yeah, it just happens. But I see a lot of people being like, Fruits Basket, best shoujo, best romance, best drama, best slice of life. But specifically in the case of best shoujo, I think it's interesting because I brought this up like an hour ago, but I wasn't sure if I would like Fruits Basket because as mean as it is to say, I was kind of like, is this a case of like baby's first shoujo where like you watch a romance series for the first time?
It was my third one.
Yeah. No, it's like, actually, it was my third shoujo. Thank you. But it's a case where people experience something new for the first time and they automatically herald it as the best. And it doesn't have to be shoujo. It can be like anything. Like you see it all the time with, you know, someone watches one anime and they're like, this is the best one of all time. And then everyone who has seen more than that is like, calm down a bit. So I was wondering if that was the case. And so this long-winded introduction is a question to OniMaru. Do you think it is both worth the hype, and do you think it is the best shoujo or one of the best shoujo?
I think Fruits Basket is definitely worth the hype. I think, you know, when I saw its rating on Mal, how high up it got. Although now I like kind of going to the separate tab, which is most popular, and kind of comparing how something like highly praised can be virtually unknown still. So I do see it is very low on the popularity. Not the manga though. The manga's high up, not the but the final anime season's not. But yeah, it's at rank number 9. When I saw it get up that high, I was not surprised because I felt like it just
interesting.
You know, once it finally got its full story told, I'm like, why would people not resonate with it? So, you know, I think it has a good message. I think it has a great cast that makes it fun. Like you said, it's an easy watch, so you have equal parts like, you know, comedy, kind of comfort, enjoyability, and, you know, kind of characters you can latch onto. And then by the end of it, when it gets into the real meat of like kind of what's kind of really, you know, bothering all of them and that trauma that they have, you're already like invested enough in them to kind of go through that and find that out. And I think they do a really good job of it. So, you know, I do think it's not perfect. It has things that hold it back, but I think it's definitely something show worth experiencing all the way through. As for the best shoujo, that's clearly a Katsuki no Yona. So that's it. No, I think it's one of the best. I think it's high up there. So
yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Cause I think I was talking to my friend about it, and I think something that I think you kind of have to praise Fruits Basket for, at least this most recent adaptation, that is something you cannot praise a lot of shoujo adaptations, unfortunately, is it is a complete adaptation. You have an ending, and I think it's a really good ending. So as we've seen, like, it's so rare you get an ending, let alone a good ending, that it does make it very much worth the hype in many cases. I think it's interesting because I was talking about it in kind of in terms of like, you know, a lot of times when I'm praising like some of the most highly ranked anime, it's like, okay, even if like you don't personally love it as much as it is rated by other people, it's kind of tough to avoid the fundamental praise for it being a complete adaptation, having a complete story, and having an ending. Because you see so many cases where that's not the case. And I think that does give it a baseline of praise.
Yeah, that you can kind of make a full judgment call on the show because you've, watched the whole story. And plus, having an anime counterpart that tells the whole story makes something much more accessible than, just only having the manga completed, So that's already makes it easier. And I tend to also like prioritize shows that like tend to like have like some sort of message or say something or like, and I'm not trying to say it in an elitist way, but specifically with Fruits Basket, it's message of like forgiveness and belonging and people not having like feeling like they have a voice or can't like speak up or
advocate for themselves.
Yeah, or don't feel like they belong in society. And that way, I feel like having a show that can sort of deal with that honestly, openly, and look at that and kind of explore that and come to its own resolution about it, which in some ways is empowering. I think that's valuable. So that's, not only are they getting a good, because, like we've talked about in the past, you can have a show that is complete ass, execution's all off and tries to say this message, but you're not getting that. That's not being conveyed because it just sucks to watch. But you have this show that is the full package mostly, and then has that message it's able to convey on top of that you can look back at it and be like, oh, hey, this, I relate to this, or this, Yuki's lines to Kyo, in that final confrontation, like, oh, hey, this really resonates. He's onto something here. That makes it special.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think because even thinking of some of my other favorite shoujo, like Nana, as much as I love it, it doesn't have an ending. Karikano doesn't have an ending, at least in the anime. The manga does have it, but we don't get complete adaptations. And those are two series I think I do enjoy more than Fruits Basket. But if I'm talking to like, say you're talking to someone and you're going to recommend them an anime and maybe they don't want to watch an action series focused on teenagers. Maybe they do want something that's like a romance drama that has these wholesome themes that you're talking about. You can very easily recommend Fruits Basket because it does have that accessibility and it has an endpoint. You say 63 episodes, then you're done. You got it. So I think that kind of accessibility leads to more people checking out romances, getting into the medium in different ways. And it's kind of like reminiscent of like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, where you can be like, yeah, good adaptation, full, complete adaptation. You watch it and you're done. You're good.
Yeah. Now, out of curiosity, what holds back, now that we're like kind of going overall and kind of giving our overall thoughts, what holds back Fruits Basket for you from being something like Nana or Karikano, which I haven't watched yet, but
so
similar genre,
sort
of similar.
Yeah. Well, they are all shoujo drama romances, so like in a similar vein. So Nana, as we've talked about, if you guys haven't, if you're kind of curious about more detailed thoughts, we have our Nana podcast. Go check that out. But Nana, you get the very, very complicated characters. Like, you remember when I was talking about the parents, how like we don't really get their full introspective view? Yeah. Nana's like the exact opposite. Everyone gets their own point of view. We get to understand everyone's thought process, as flawed as it may be. You get to see every side. Everything is just so dense. You get to see all of these complex characters, their flawed views, ways of thinking, and it lets you kind of come to your own conclusion on who is in the right, who's in the wrong, who has more validity to their actions and statements. You kind of get to make up your own mind. And then it also does have the benefit of tackling a lot of young adult issues that you don't often see explored. So, Nana is just kind of like a very unique experience that you don't really find anywhere.
So it's a mix of the uniqueness as well as the nuance. Like, you feel like there's not enough of that. Like, there's some of that in Fruits Basket, but not enough on like a character, like deeper personal level. I will say though, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You finish.
No, I was just gonna joke that like they don't go deep into the parents in Nana though. They're sort of just one note.
Because they got abandoned for better or worse.
Well, no, I meant Hachi's parents.
Oh yeah. I think also with Nana, it's a bit more nuanced, but also for Nana, it's also kind of like, I think with Nana, it's like, it's not against Fruits Basket. It's just Nana is just such a rare case. Like, I don't think I've seen relationships, friendships, romantic, coworkers, anything. Like, I don't think I've seen such complicated, nuanced portrayals of those relationships in like anything. You know,
Okay.
it is just such a dense piece of work. Like it's just, you know, you experience it and you totally understand. Like you read a chapter and you're like, I'm experiencing so many emotions, feelings, thoughts, like everything. But Kari Kano,
and I know it's like it's not a specific thing, but I was just trying to see if there's a way to like kind of like single out that X factor that was missing like in Fruits Basket for you.
I think you could say nuance. Nuance is a good way. Nuance is a good way of summarizing it. And then I think with Kari Kano, even though I haven't read the manga, they do a really good job of establishing the main couple from the get-go. That one's probably got the best directing I've seen out of a rom-com, like very interesting directing. It's your boy Hideaki Anno directing it. So
wait.
Up there, that and like Kaguya, kind of similar tier of
also
directing.
I also found out a little earlier during this pod. Was it this pod? Yeah, this pod. Or was it last? Was it? I don't know. When were we talking about JC staff? So I found out that whoops. I found out that it was Gainax and JC staff that did that.
Oh, interesting. They help out with a bunch, so it makes
Or at
sense.
least they were listed, so they were probably like, you know, helped out, like you said.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
But that one is a case where they have a very good balance. That one's definitely a rom-com, like a very good balance of romance and comedy, but I think they do a good job of being really introspective to both the two characters and their relationship. So that one I would put up a bit higher, both just because of the way they handle the main two characters, who I find a bit more relatable than some of the characters in Fruits Basket. Like, I'd probably put Yuki on that level, but I think some of the disconnect we have with Toro, where she is very perfect, you kind of get the exact opposite with Yukino is the main character, where she has her public persona that she feels she has to live up to and like her true self. And I think the way they explore that is both a bit more entertaining and relatable. And so
No, and I just wanted to add that you know, Toru feeling that way makes she makes sense, but it doesn't mean you can relate just because she makes sense. So
So it's so like her relationship with Arima is like I find it more interesting than probably like Kyo and Toru. Even though I appreciate Kyo and Toru and the way that they've developed, I don't find it as interesting or as like compelling. You know, it's tough when it's kind of like, yo, I really like this. This is really well done versus like, this is my thing. This is my...
Yeah, because it sounds like, and I'd have to experience it for myself, but it sounds like with Karakano, like they dig deep enough into the characters that you can sort of latch on to them more than like a Kyo and Toru, even though you got their, you know, their backstories. But here you kind of understand their psychology, that, you know, it makes it more compelling once they see it in the terms of a relationship and kind of what they're going through.
Yeah, I think the case is that like, while I do, so for the score that we mentioned a bit ago, I gave this like a really strong 8. I do have it like, I think it's a really great series. I have it as like probably my second highest 8, which sounds like an insult, but I really mean it as a compliment. Like
it's a backhanded compliment.
It sounds really mean, but then I'm like, look how high up I have it compared to all these other series. So I really value and appreciate the series. I think it's just some of the small details of how they choose to go about creating characters and conflict and the way they explore them is what holds it back. Not because it's a fault of Fruits Basket, but because it doesn't resonate with me as much as other stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely at somewhere between, you know, a light 9 to a decent 9.
Yeah.
It's somewhere there because I do like, I was never like, I always loved Fruits Basket, but it wasn't always like, you know, top of mind, like, you know, absolute favorite. But I, you know, once I got to re-experience the story and, you know, the whole kind of message it was trying to say, it's like, okay, that pushes it up for me.
Yeah.
More than just an enjoyable show. So.
Yeah. If it's anything, I will give the message is probably better than Nana's, because Nana's message makes me feel sad and empty, and this message makes me feel inspired. So, you know, you win some, you lose some.
There you go. Although, you know, we still have more affection for Nana, so that means we're in a toxic relationship with Nana, which is on theme.
Which is on brand. I was going to say that when you're like, why do you like Nana more? It's like, because I am just toxic. So
because Nana hurts me.
Nana does hurt me. But
and
I do have
can't
to give
let
a
her
shout
go.
out. Yeah. I do have to give a shout out to my top one, Shoujo. It's not necessarily in the same genre. It's not in the same genre. It's in the same demographic, but it is the most of wholesome. It is Cardcaptor Sakura. So that is my wholesome goat. It makes me happy on the inside.
I'm still due for a rewatch.
Yeah, it's yeah, I've been watching it on TV. I was trying to see, I was gonna watch that as like, I'm sick, I need to pick me up. But then I was like watching it on Netflix on my TV, and they converted it because it's in like 4:3 because it's like back in the
yeah.
They converted it, and it was like super stretched and weird, and I was like,
oh god,
no, this
why?
makes me feel uncomfortable.
Doesn't make you feel
not wholesome.
Positive and wholesome. Okay, I don't want to extend the conversation any longer, but really quickly then, your reasons for liking Cardcaptor Sakura, since we're on the topic of shoujo, are different than like Nana or because Nana's nuance and Fruits Basket, because it's dealing with serious issues. So I guess you could compare those two in the same realm as, okay, this has more nuance than that.
Yeah.
But Cardcaptor Sakura is like different.
Yeah, I mean, Cardcaptor Sakura does have some nuance to it. It does tackle some interesting subjects and ideas. I
haven't watched it in a long time either, so disclaimer.
But it is also like, it is generally a kid's show, but I think I also do try and grade it on like what it's trying to go for. Like Cardcaptor Sakura is not trying to go for Nana's level of angst and nuance, but the way in which Cardcaptor Sakura does go about its themes and how fun it is, I think it's really well done, and it's the combination of like wholesome fun, really well made. You could argue it's like the best animated Madhouse anime. Like you see some of the clips, like ridiculously good looking. It's a lot of fun, and then when it does get into the interpersonal relationships of the characters, I find it really compelling and good. So
yeah, I bring it up for myself, for the audience, because I just think it's a good distinction to make too, because it's sometimes hard to tell like, well, why is this that way, and then why is that rated that way, and a lot of times it's kind of like, well, what's the intent of the show and how is it executing on that. And also, the more and more I like try to engage in it, the more I realize that like rating shows and stuff is like, or coming up with your thoughts on it isn't really a science. It's really more of an art. It starts with, I tend to have like I have this affection for this show and I don't know why. Now let me try to articulate it. So it's like working backwards. It's like, why do I, for some reason, inexplicable reason, have Cardcaptor Sakura above Nana? And it's like, well, time to find that out. Time to put that into words. So
yeah, and it's tough. A lot of times it is also, you got to get kind of nitpicky. Like in some cases, I'm willing to overlook that Nana doesn't have a complete ending and some of the visuals might be a bit out of date. Sometimes I'm willing to overlook that because I love it so much. But then when it's against something else I might love a smidgen more, that might become a bit more of an issue, because Cardcaptor Sakura does have a complete adaptation. So
yeah, you're really just trying to put words to your love. It's like, okay, why do I prefer this child over the other? It's like, well, let's try to get down to it.
I've really just been trying to be Sakura Kinomoto since I was 10. I want her outfits. I want to be able to do a backflip, and I want to capture the cloud cards. I've wanted to do that for like 20 years.
I don't blame you. I mean, like my fiance bought a Cardcaptor Sakura wallet. She had some other Cardcaptor Sakura merch. It's like, it's okay.
The real test is what shows your fiance likes and doesn't like. If she gives Cardcaptor Sakura the pass and not Fruits Basket, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. I mean, like the Fruits Basket thing is easy. She just hates Toru. That's it. End of story.
It is interesting. I think there's a case where like some other female anime fans I've talked to cannot relate to a lot of this like very pure, overly optimistic, like heart of gold, unconditional love support all the time. And they're like, no, I can't vibe with this. And it's really interesting because I'm like, I totally see it, but it's always interesting to assume that it's like, yeah, girls will like love this. This is just how girls are. And a lot of times girls are like, no, toxic. Give me the toxic.
Yeah. My fiance was like, Toru's a doormat. Done.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't vibing with it. And I remember too, that you bring that up. I was like a kid and I was like watching like, I guess the DVD for Fruits Basket. I don't know if you never watched the original anime, right?
No.
So it had like this opening, I guess it was the English version, but it was this overly saccharine, like just wholesome, I guess, comforting, like opening. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But, and then I just like, I'm like in my room, like watching it, and like my girl cousin like walks in and like she sees me, like she hears me like watching it, and she's like, "What the fuck are you watching? Ew."
She's like,
"What's
vibe
wrong with
checking
you?"
it. Yeah, vibe checking this. Oh my god.
Yeah, she definitely wasn't feeling it. It was a little too I guess girly.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't hit, but
It doesn't work.
yeah.
But yeah. So anything else that we did not cover about Fruits Basket?
I think that's it. I mean, I think that was my Fruits Basket Academia
Journey.
Fruits
Oh my
Basket
God.
2021.
Yeah. I'm glad you're finally caught up. You know,
Me
now we
too.
have a frame of reference for one of the most iconic shoujo.
And you know, the big question is Fruits Basket the best shoujo? For me, I have a few over it, but I can 100% see it being your favorite. And I do think it's worth the hype. I think it is worth checking out if you were in the camp I was in. If you're somehow watching this after all these spoilers and you're like, yeah, maybe I'll check it out. But like, yeah, I think
Sounds
it's worth
interesting.
watching. Yeah.
I mean, it's up there for me. I mean, if a Katsuki no Yona ever finishes, and if I ever catch up, that might be, you know,
I heard that's a real
above it.
goat. I heard that's real.
It's so good.
I gotta
It's
read
so
that.
fucking good.
Gotta read it.
I mean, I haven't read it in like a couple years, but I'm just like knowing that I have like 50 chapters just waiting for me, or 60. It's like
Best.
it's really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't disappoint so far. But yeah, no, Nana's up there, and then the other shoujos I've read. So
Yeah, shoujos are good. People should check them out.
you heard it from us.
Yeah,
And,
shoujo approved.
Yeah. All right, Sha, tell them to like and subscribe. And
Like,
all
comment,
that.
subscribe. Tune in next time for more puns and appropriately realistic themed backgrounds. So
Yep. Or not appropriately themed backgrounds, like
yeah,
because after all, what do we know?
we're just weebs.